A couple weeks ago, I was in my college advising class when we were asked to pull up the VIA character strength from our freshman year. That was basically a test that we took to assess our leadership capabilities and our character strength. So I pulled mine up, and despite I've never really believed in the power of these leadership quizzes or tests to define who you are and your leadership, I found something pretty interesting that puzzled me really on that list. So I found that courage was listed on the bottom of my character strength list, which means that courage was my character weakness when I first came in. And that confused me because I don't really feel like courage was one of, something that I lacked. I feel pretty comfortable standing up for myself and the people around me. So I went up to my college advisor and I asked, hey, is this test really accurate, and should I put courage on my personal essay? So he said that maybe you don't feel like courage is one of your character weakness while the list says it is, not because the test is inaccurate, but because you have grown throughout your 3 years at Culver. And believe it or not, that sort of made sense. So I went back and I started to ponder what was the factor that contributed to that growth of the strength of courage from here to here on that list. And after a long time of consideration and discovery, I determined that Culver's speech team was one of the most contributive factors to how courage climbed the list from the bottom one to the top one. My name is Steve Su. I am a 3-year varsity speaker on the Culver speech team, and I have spent my whole career competing in varsity impromptu and varsity informative. I am also a 3-year junior in Troop B, and I am running for speech team captain in my senior year. Today I made this little video for you just to learn more about me, my personality and my experience on the Culver speech team, and also for you to know more about my envisionment of the leadership of the Culver speech team. Enjoy! Lesson number 1. Be bold and try new things. As we all know, speech team has 2 types of events, public address and interp, and a really common phenomenon is that interpers tends to stick with their own events, such as OP people doing OP for their whole career and drama people doing drama for their whole career. And on the other side, impromptu and extemp people tends to stick within that range as well. Throughout my career, I've been doing informative and impromptu, and which is both public address event, but informative tends to tilt more towards interp because of the memorization and delivery prepared delivery that is required. So, and throughout that experience, I found out that in fact my experience doing impromptu really benefited a lot on my performance doing informative speaking, because learning how to use the content and having to improvise a little bit when I forget something really helps with my informative performances. And also on the other hand, doing informative speaking has benefited my performance in impromptu speaking events as well, because it taught me how to use my tone and delivery better to appeal to the audiences. So, be bold and try things that you aren't really familiar with, and in that way, although you might not be that good at or talented at that new event that you're doing, right? Maybe you won't be able to discover your surprising talent in that event. You will still be able to discover some of the skills from that event that you are not familiar with and take it back to your main event, so you can improve your performance on your main event with that sort of exotic knowledges. Lesson number 2. The ribbon is not everything. Of course, your career on the Culver speech team is going to be competition oriented. Sometimes you will think that ribbon is so important that it outweighs anything else in this experience, but I want you to challenge yourself to think differently. You are destined to meet failures on your path of the Culver speech team, right? You are destined to meet people who are so good at their speeches that you just can't seem to catch up with them. And I have many friends who quitted the Culver speech team because they didn't think that they were good enough to compete with other people. And it is exactly what you do, what decision you make at this point that defines you and your future on the team. So personally, I have many failures on my Culver speaking career as well. I've had times when I spent so many times on improving my speeches, but it just doesn't seem to appeal to judges and coaches. So I want you to think about the failures and successes you meet on this path as both things that are going to forge a new skill that is implanted in you that can change and benefit your whole life from now on. Lesson number 3. Think about your pieces as something more than a performance. Some of us tends to only think about our pieces as something that is turned into competitions and used to win ribbons, but public speaking is more than that. Public speaking is not just a skill, but how you talk and behave in front of a crowd. And when used correctly, public speaking can have a huge impact on the people around you and the community. And that is in fact one of the fundamental reasons why I established the Ego Talks, which is a TED-style student organization that you probably all heard about. So I really do want to challenge you to not only polish your performances and your pieces, but also be courageous enough to take what you have learned from all those polishing and practicing in the corporate speech team out there to the real world and apply these skills to become not just a competitor, but also a influential public speaker out there in the community that is dedicated to making a change or making your voice heard. Final lesson. If you are a newbie or novice looking for an event, make your decision with consideration beyond the description of the event. When I was choosing my event in my freshman year, I looked at Inform, and then people just told me that Inform was about just talking to people about an object or a subject without any opinions. But after 3 years of doing this event, I found out that Inform was really about the art of explanation. Informative speaking gives you the ability to take apart a complex subject into pieces and then demonstrating these pieces with visual aids and the language that can be understood by common man who does not have any prior knowledge on this subject. That is the real gift that informative speaking bestowed me as a person. And the same goes with impromptu. Impromptu is not just about giving an improvised public speech. Impromptu is about giving you a prompt and then generating a complex network of ideas, knowledges, and blocks, and then making subtle connections between these ideas to that prompt and then giving a speech off these connections. So impromptu is going to help you become the fastest thinker and speaker out there, because you need to quickly generate that complex network of ideas and then making these connections typically within 2 or even 1 minutes. So if you are a novice and is hesitating on what event you're going to do, don't just ask the veterans about what the event is about. Ask them instead what they have learned from the event, and ask yourself, what do I want to learn from the corporate speech team, and what ability do I want to master throughout this experience and this journey? 3 years ago, in the chilly zephyr of a somber November afternoon, I walked into Mr. Barnes' classroom and told this guy that I would like to be a member of the corporate speech team and try public speaking. And it is not an exaggeration at all to say that that moment has become the turning point in my life. Corporate speech team has played a transformative role in how I evolved from the little freshman kid who was introverted and shy into the person who was able to speak confidently and eloquently today. So now, I would like to briefly talk about why you should vote for me as your co-captain and what do I have to lead and take on this leadership role. I am a very experienced leader. I take on important leadership roles in the corporate military leadership system, and I have also taken many student organizations from non-existence to prosperity. I am also a very experienced and capable speaker. I was a state quarterfinalist in my freshman year and became finalist in both of the sectional tournaments in which I competed with my Inform pieces, and I am also a very competent writer. I have won awards with the speeches that I wrote and also the little stories that I wrote about things that happens in my life. So if you want me to run through your speech, give you some comments, or take a look at how you can improve your speech in terms of the writing and the cutting, I can definitely help you with that. Also, if you are a person who's doing informative speaking, I can also teach you some very valuable lessons on how to use your visual props to take your speech to the next level. Because obviously, these visual aids are things that is exclusive to this event. So you need to learn how to use these props and visual aids properly to make your speech sounds more appealing to your audiences and judges than other people. So visual aids are very important, and you need to know how to use them correctly. And if you use them correctly, they're going to help you a lot. Thank you very much for listening to me talking. No matter who you vote for, I am sure that you will make the right choice for the team. So thank you very much, and I will see you next season.